Product tiers have somewhat been standardized among tech products over the years, and they're pretty self-explanatory. Products usually have a baseline model denoted as having no tier suffix or the word standard in its name. Slimmer, lower power, or lower priced variants are called the light, and more powerful, higher priced and thus higher value variants are called the max or the ultra, or in the case of our product today, the pro. But how do brands really differentiate the pro model from the standard? And is it fair to the consumer? Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Evangelista. Welcome to my channel, and in this review video, we're here to answer the question: does the Legion Pro 7i really deserve that pro tier status? But before we continue with the video, let's keep the lights on here in the studio. This video is brought to you by SNK ATK Design Lab. They're a clothing company that specializes in technical fashion, more commonly known as techwear, and you can see me in their clothes in most of my videos. I've been supporting their brand ever since I met them back in 2019, and now they're returning the favor. Head on over to this link, you can find it in the description as well, to get 10% off your order from their site. Check their clothes out, you're bound to see something badass over there that'll look great on you. Thank you very much to SNK ATK for this exclusive promo for my viewers. Now, back to the video. As is usual in my reviews, we start with the outside. The Lenovo Legion Pro 7i is a sleek, gorgeous all-metal machine that exudes class. It does away with the trend of gaming laptops being over-designed and loud. It stands sturdy on your desk with all the restraint and sophistication of a Bond villain, wearing an onyx gray suit. It's borderline brutalist in design, and I respect that. But what I can respect better is the fact that its build is environmentally conscious. To date, this is Lenovo's most sustainable gaming device yet. The bottom cover is made from 50% recycled aluminum, and the top cover is made from 30% recycled polymers. As a channel that constantly pushes brands to adopt a more green approach to production, this gets full marks from me. It can't escape being classified as a huge laptop though. It is a 16-inch screen laptop, so it's predictably and understandably big, coming in at 363.4mm wide, 262.15mm deep, and 25.9mm tall. My bag can barely fit it, and weighing in at 6.17 pounds without the charger and around 7 pounds with, it is a very heavy package to lug around. In terms of the build, the cost of the Pro status is a double-edged sword. You do get a sleek, amazing to look at, and environmentally conscious device that'll turn some heads because of its aesthetics and turn even more heads when they hear how it's made. But it still has the downsides that most large laptops have. It's nearing prohibitively huge dimensions, and it's very heavy. It's a desktop replacement, yeah. Moving on down to the keyboard, we see what Legion calls its new True Strike keyboard, apparently an upgrade from previous generations. While I don't necessarily see or feel any significant changes from my old 2021 model Legion Slim 7i, I would still like to point out that Legion laptop keyboards have always been pretty good. It has a crisp and straight 1.5mm key travel, bright and vivid per key RGB backlighting, and it even comes with a full key half-size numpad. There's also a set of white ceramic replacement keycaps included in the box if you ever want to pimp out your WASD cluster. The trackpad is fine, a bit bigger than previous models, but it's still a regular run-of-the-mill Windows Precision trackpad. Feels great in the hand, but nothing significant to talk about. What left me wanting though is the removal of the fingerprint scanner from the power button. It's been in previous models but removed for this year's offering, making this incompatible with passkey services. It feels like that it would be a feature that many pros would have appreciated, whether you're a gaming pro or a work pro, especially when Windows and Google are implementing biometric login into a lot of their respective ecosystems. Time for my most favorite part of this laptop, the ports. I've always been outspoken about my frustration with laptop manufacturers making huge laptops and skimping out on ports, and it's nice to see that Legion took that the other way around. The Legion Pro 7i on the left side has a single USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A and a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C with DisplayPort out, so you can break it out to a second monitor. It's not Thunderbolt though, so no daisy chaining displays. On the right side, we have the 3.5mm unified audio jack and another USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A port. And at the back, we get the full deal. We get two super speed USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A ports, an HDMI 2.1 FRL out, an RJ45 LAN port even though it's kind of flipped over, and another USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port that supports both DisplayPort out and power delivery up to 140 watts. This is an impressive comprehensive selection. All of the ports are in the correct places, and they're all useful to pros that are looking to make the most out of their Legion Pro 7i. Amazing job here, Legion. Please keep this up. Oh, and the next time around, please add a full-size SD card slot. Please? For me? The vents are visibly one of the bigger updates from previous generations, as Legion chose to physically expand the case of the Pro 7i to accommodate larger and wider vents. They now slightly stick out of the housing and feature large, stretched hexagonal holes with little obstruction to maximize airflow. And to take matters further, Legion has also integrated intake vents to the underside of the keyboard to maximize the amount of airflow to the two fans. And yeah, they work, but we'll talk about that later. As is usual in my reviews, let's take a look at the webcam before we go up and close with the display. The Lenovo Legion Pro 7i comes with a 1080p webcam that does pretty okay, middle-of-the-road performance, and with the mics performing the same way. I do want to point out that the mics kind of sound like that there's a lot of boost to the highs. I have done just one piece of post-processing for the audio in this segment, which is just boost the levels of the audio to match with the levels of my voiceover for the rest of the video. And I didn't change anything with the EQ. So yeah, by default, it sounds like there's a high boost in the EQ in the processing in Lenovo software. Alright, this is probably the part where the Pro has to fight for its namesake, the display. The Lenovo Legion Pro 7i 2023 has a 16-inch, 16:10 aspect ratio, 2560x1600, 240Hz refresh rate IPS display that can go up to 500 nits of brightness and supports 100% sRGB, VESA Display HDR, Dolby Vision, and NVIDIA G-Sync. On paper, it sounds fantastic, and it is. It's been an absolute pleasure playing games on it and editing videos. It's just that it feels mostly like a gaming display. It doesn't offer much in the way of pro features. At this price point, I would have expected this to be running a higher net output, better HDR support, DCI-P3 validation, or even just straight up be a mini LED panel with full array local dimming. As it is now, it's great for gaming, but it falls short for work, especially in color-sensitive workflows. I've read on a few sites that there is a 165Hz mini LED variant available, but after some digging around, it doesn't seem to be available here in the Philippines, nor in a lot of global territories. And since I'm not evaluating what a product could be, but instead what it is in front of me, I have to say that the display on the Legion Pro 7i, while great for gaming, shouldn't be labeled for pros. But I'll give this to Legion, it is close. It is very close. If anything, if you were measuring by previous generation standards, it is pro. But, standards are ever changing and the bar is always getting raised. And for this year, it's not cutting it. Just a few minor tweaks or even just make the full jump to mini LED and you've got yourself a winner. Last part to tackle about the externals are the speakers. And like my findings with previous Lenovo Legion laptops, the speakers sound pretty great. They can reach a good volume without distortion and there are no glaringly missing frequencies. Here it is in my standard speaker test against the JBL Quantum Duo. The speakers have some great voicing to them, thanks to Harman. It's left me impressed. Good job on the speakers on this year's model, Lenovo. Alright, time for some specs. The Lenovo Legion Pro 7i Gen 8 is running the Intel Core i9-3900HX processor, which has a total of 24 cores, split into 8 performance cores and 16 efficiency cores. It runs at a base clock of 3.9 GHz but can turbo up to 5.4 GHz. It's supported by 32 gigs of DDR5 5600 megatransfers per second RAM, the powerful NVIDIA RTX 4080 which has 12 gigs of GDDR6 VRAM, and in this model, 2 TB of PCIe NVMe for SSD storage. This is one of the most powerful laptops I've used this year, and everything is just ceiling level crazy parts. I wasn't able to open up my unit, but I've got a photo here of the insides, care of hwcooling.net. As we can see here, the Lenovo cold front cooling system employs 2 fans and a huge hybrid of vapor chamber and heat pipe cooling to direct heat to the heat sinks. There is space for additional RAM and the full-length M.2 drive, and it is running a 99.9 watt-hour battery. Yeah, I'm glad to see Legion kept all upgrade options open for the Pro 7i. I'm thinking that power users, or pros, will appreciate the ability to expand the RAM up to 64 gigs. Now that we know what this laptop brought to party with, let's head on over to performance. Alright, time for some numbers on the screen. Do note that all these tests were done with the Legion Pro 7i in its performance preset through the Lenovo Vantage app. It does support manual tuning, so you can possibly get better numbers if you tweak it further. Let's start with synthetic benchmarks. On Cinebench R23, the Legion Pro 7i was able to achieve some of the highest scores I've yet to get on any laptop this 2023. 26,849 points in multi-core and 2,047 points in single-core performance. It's pretty impressive. 3DMark TimeSpy is a similar story, dominating the benchmark with 12,395 points in CPU, 16,950 points in GPU, and garnering an overall score of 16,064 points. Solid balance of CPU and GPU performance, and it really sets a tone to the kind of performance that we can expect in-game. Moving on over to gaming performance, all tests were performed set to the laptop's native 2560 by 1600 resolution, with the laptop set to its high-performance preset on the Lenovo Vantage app. I opted to go for this approach given the laptop specs. It's just too overkill for 1080p gaming, and very few games would be able to stress the laptop enough for us to see any meaningful benchmark results. Let's start with the lighter games on our lineup. Returnal on the Epic preset was able to score an average of 111 FPS with a 1% low of 56 FPS. Forza Horizon 5 got similar results with an average of 97 FPS with a 1% low of 64 FPS. And Dirt 5 performance was basically identical with an average of 97 FPS with a 1% low of 63 FPS. Seeing the performance in these 3 games are somewhat surprising because while the average frame rates that we're getting is pretty good, we're seeing a low tally on the 1% lows. This coincides with my observation that the laptop tends to quickly alternate between boost states even while in game. This might be a problem with the Lenovo Vantage app. Moving on over to our 3 heavy games, F1 2022 on max settings got an average of 59 FPS with a 1% low of 50 FPS. Historically, this has been a very hard game to run, with very few laptops I've tested before being able to get near or past 100 FPS under similar settings. As I've recommended before, DLSS is the key for better performance in this title. Heading on over to my favorite shooter, Battlefield 2042. At max settings, we're seeing an average of 116 FPS with a 1% low of 70 FPS. This is not bad. Lastly, we have the heavy Cyberpunk 2077. Do note that this benchmark was captured with the 1.6 version since the 2.0 version hasn't released yet as of filming it, and I don't have the Legion Pro 7i with me anymore to do a retest when I recorded this voiceover. But on max settings with RTX on and DLSS set to auto, I got an average of 67 FPS with a 1% low of 23 FPS. Yikes, I noticed that this was the game that was affected by the intermittent boosting the most. It felt like the laptop was slightly throttling due to the sheer load of the game, but yeah, I feel like it's mostly a problem with the Lenovo Vantage app. Overall gaming performance was pretty outstanding, and remember, this is on native 1600p resolution with most titles set to DLSS off. You can definitely get better frame rates by turning DLSS on and switching to a lower 1200p resolution. Moving on over to our final segment before the verdict, we've got the battery and thermals. For both tests, I set the power management to balanced, meaning Windows controls the amount of juice the system needs to accomplish the current task. On a normal load, that consists of web browsing, a bit of script writing, and some video watching on YouTube. The Legion Pro 7i was able to last an impressive 4 hours and 12 minutes before shutting off. Under gaming load, I was able to eke out 56 minutes of gameplay in Forza Horizon 5 before it conked out. Overall, this is pretty solid battery life, even if you consider the fact that Intel-based laptops generally have worse battery life than their AMD-equipped equivalents. Second to the ports, battery life, for me, is what makes the laptop worthy of its pro-tier status. It just sips at its big battery, and yeah, you're free enough to use it anywhere you are, and it's not going to be asking you to plug it into the wall every other hour. It's pretty great. Thermals are pretty solid too, with the GPU and CPU maxing out at 82 degrees Celsius and 83 degrees Celsius respectively during a gaming load, and idling at just 36 degrees Celsius and 42 degrees Celsius respectively. As a reference, here's the sound when it's running its fans at full blast. It is still pretty loud, don't get me wrong, but it's understandably loud. It's not obnoxious, it won't ruin your gaming experience, and it's got zero coil whine. Great job with the cooling, Lenovo Legion. Harkening back to the opening question posed at the start of this video. Does the Legion Pro 7i deserve its Pro status? Well, in my opinion, we've got to look at the sum of its parts, because it's kind of a toss-up if you look at it piece by piece. It's certainly got the Pro build, performance, and battery life, but it's decidedly got a non-Pro display, loses out much on the absence of a fingerprint scanner or biometric login webcam, and of course, its low portability score. There are model variants of the Legion Pro 7i that cover some of the missing Pro features like the mini LED screen, but that's only available in some territories, and it's not the one that I have here with me. Like I said earlier, I don't review products based on what they could have been, but instead how they are presented to me. And while I can say that the Legion Pro 7i can keep its Pro name since it's deserved it, I just want to clear it up with people that this is not a misleading thing. It's actually just a confusing thing. Let me explain. The term Pro here denotes that it's a pro-level gaming laptop, not the usual implied meaning that it's a laptop for both work and games. But still, it's a pretty great laptop, and I can't take that away from it. It's been one of the best performers I've seen this year, and of course, it looks so damn good. So that's the Legion Pro 7i. If you have any questions about this, please leave it down in the comments and I'll try to answer it. While you're there, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Of course, follow me on my other socials. That's it. I'm Kevin Evangelista. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.